It's Two on the Aisle with me, Charles Gross, and Leslie Hoban Blake. Tonight, reviews of M. Butterfly, The Band's Visit, Diaspora, and Jesus Hopped the A-Train. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Two on the Aisle. Good evening. I am Charles Gross.
And I am Leslie Hoban Blake. Good evening.
You know, Leslie.
Yes, Charlie?
It has always been my desire and my hope to be on the front page of a newspaper like the New York Daily News. Well, Leslie, beware of what you wish for.
Can we get a close-up of that?
Yes. Danny, switch it over to camera 2. Somebody switch it over to camera 2.
Hello.
Mr. Director, are you there? Oh, there we go. He's doing a close-up. Okay. Someone take 2. There we go. Daily News. Yeah.
Yep. There he is.
All right. Well, we have some shows to talk about tonight.
I'll get rid of this for you.
Let's
yes,
put that somewhere. Okay.
Boom. Okay.
All right. M. Butterfly. Now, this is a revival of the play by David Henry Wong. This was the play that put him on the map.
On the map, yes, indeed.
It starred John Lithgow. Also put B.D. Wong on the map.
Yes.
Here, Clive Owen is taking over the John Lithgow role. Jin Ha is playing the butterfly. Now, this is a play, this is about a French diplomat who is, and there's no other word for it, a yutz.
In French, that would be.
Right. I don't know what it is in
I don't know either. I speak French.
But basically, there was what I believe is a new scene where he's having a romantic fantasy of a pinup girl. Mm-hmm. And even there, he can't score. So perhaps it's not so surprising when later on in life he is duped by, he's working on assignment in China and duped by an opera singer and they have a romance for years and he never figures out that she is a he.
Well, but you see, it's more than that. What we come to now in this version is that there's obviously latent homosexuality at play, which really wasn't in the one with John Lithgow.
Oh,
they didn't play that.
And I'll get to that momentarily. What basically and you keep wondering how he could not figure this out. And they do explain that at the end of later in the play, which they did not do in the original. And
well, it's a graphic explanation,
yes.
which I could have done without. I didn't really need it.
I found it interesting. I had actually known about it because I read about it when the original version opened. And I'm sitting through the first act, and I'm thinking, this play has lost its relevance. It's lost its sting.
But it's set in the time
David
period.
Henry, even so. Look, today, when this show first opened, I think it was like 20 years ago, this could still shock, but today we have reality shows with transgender women. We have a reality show, Who's the Best Drag Queen? Something like this.
You're saying that it's lost its shock value?
I do, I am.
But that's not all the play was. It wasn't just about shock. It was about what is love and and gender fluidity and,
But no one even knew the term gender fluidity back then. And it wasn't and it was not about love. It was in the original version when Wong reveals himself.
Yes.
He basically is laughing at the guy. Here, and this is what makes all the difference, it turns out to be, the butterfly character who was laughing along with everybody else at this diplomat is basically now it's, yes, this is who I am, love me anyway. That's a very different attitude. And that is what made this play interesting. It still feels dated, and I have a suspicion that ultimately David Henry Wong will be better remembered for Chinglish or for his rewriting a flower drum song than for this.
I think,
but it made it interesting again.
Well, I think,
and one more thing, then I'm going to let you go. And you just wonder throughout the play why Clive Owen's character can't figure it out, and then it hits me in the middle of the second act. He doesn't want to know. That's
what I'm saying about, yes, and he doesn't want to know because probably on some level he does know. And that's, I think, part of it.
I think so.
And here's the other part of it. When John Lithgow played it, and John Lithgow was not John Lithgow when he played it. I don't think he'd done Third Rock from the Sun yet.
He hadn't.
So he wasn't known as a comedian. He was an actor. And so he could get away with playing a Yahtzee character. But, I mean, obviously Daniel Craig is not a Yutz. You know, Daniel Craig is a very attractive, very...
Right. But Daniel Craig is not in this.
I'm saying Daniel Craig. I mean Clive
Yes.
Owen. Yes, he's not in it. I did it again.
Okay.
Clive Owen also is a very attractive and highly sexual guy, but he's playing
Not
this
here.
character very well.
Yes.
So that he's believable as the Yutz, as you call him. Now I can't get that word out of my head. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And then the second thing I want to say is that this play has been updated.
Yes.
Because it isn't just the description of that, but as you say, there's the extra scene. The audience brings a different sensibility to this play.
Yes.
And this play got, you know me, I love to read other people's reviews because I always march to my own drummer, so it doesn't make any difference. And I discovered that most of the critics hated this. They really didn't care for this at all. Now, the director is Julie Taymor. And in advance, I thought, wow, Chinese opera, Julie Taymor, this is going to be spectacular. Well, it wasn't spectacular. She went low rather than high in that sense.
Yes.
She uses panels, and on the panels are different interpretations.
And the puppet butterfly.
And the puppet butterfly, yes. And also you got me off the track now with the puppet butterfly. I was going to say something, but I don't remember what it was.
Okay.
Anyway,
You know, cast is decent enough. Jin Ha
yeah.
steps into the role of the butterfly.
Yes.
Very nice.
Much less convincingly, I think, than B.D. Wong. I think B.D.
Perhaps.
Wong had
And maybe that was one of the problems.
Perhaps.
I wasn't convinced.
Perhaps.
I'm saying, how do you not know?
Well, and perhaps that was part of what that was about too. I don't, I don't really know. Obviously, I don't know. But I did think that Julie Taymor was going to bring something special to this that I didn't find, and I was really surprised about that. I thought all the Chinese opera scenes. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Okay. There's one scene where they go through the change from the time period in the 50s to the revolution,
Right.
and there's suddenly the person comes out waving the flag, and I thought it was right out of Miss Saigon. You know, that scene with the flag
Well,
waving.
Miss Saigon is based on Madame Butterfly, and
Yes,
that is the inspiration for this story.
No, but that flag waving wasn't in the original Madame Butterfly. What I'm saying is that was not. I was surprised.
Well,
that
in Madame Butterfly, the butterfly was a girl.
Okay, yes, that's why she was called Madame Butterfly. Okay. So are we going to give this some sort of rating now that we've torn it apart? Here's the thing. What I wanted to say was I did read the other reviews, and I was prepared to be disappointed, and I wasn't. I rather liked it, much more than I thought I was going to, and I would give it a pretty solid 3.5. That's not a great review, but it's not a 2, you know.
Yes.
And where would you go with it?
I would say 3 1/4.
Okay,
So
well,
very, very close to
close,
it, possibly even 3.5 on a good night. I agree with you. Again, the play has lost a lot, but it has, well, morphed into
it's now
something that is certainly watchable and of interest in this day of age.
Actually, I think it was on a well, anyway, we're moving on.
Yes, we
to
are.
a play that we've seen twice now also,
Yes.
but this is within the same, within a year of itself, and this is The Band's Visit. And The Band's Visit, I have words, I almost lose my words when I think about this play. This play is translucent. It is transcendent. There's got to be another trans, but it's not transgender, so I'll leave it alone. This play stars Christina Lenk and Tony Shalhoub, and then a bunch of other people whose names will not mean very much because they are fairly unknown. But they are playing a band that comes from Egypt to a small town in Israel to play at the Arab Cultural Center. And by going one letter off on the name of the town, Bet HaTikva.
They were supposed to go to Petah Tikva with a P or a Pei in Hebrew, and they end up in this
Betah Tikva.
with a B or a Bet.
And Bet HaTikva is a town that has a tiny little restaurant and nothing, sand and a disco, it turns out, behind something.
And a roller rink.
And a roller rink.
Or
which is
at
part
least
of the
in the
disco.
vicinity at any rate.
And it's got nothing, and it certainly doesn't have an Arab cultural center. And it's just, this is a slight little story based on a movie, beautifully done, music by David Yazbek, just incredibly lovely, directed by David Cromer, Itmar Moses, who is himself Jewish, so this was very interesting to do that with that. And it's directed by David Cromer, and it has grown. We saw it at the Atlantic. I liked it well enough at the Atlantic. I love it here.
You can stay here with us tonight if you want.
No.
You have done too much already.
Okay. Broadway. It's just expanded slightly, and your heart expands with it. Beautiful, beautiful story. Delicate as anything.
I love the premise.
Yeah.
And I like the story.
Yeah.
But I was amazed. It's been like a year since we've seen this, if that.
Yeah.
I was amazed how little of it I remembered. There was one, maybe two songs that I remembered.
But you remember the song about Omar Sharif,
Omar
of
Sharif,
course.
yes. Yes, and then there was one other song. I mean, David Yazbek has done some really good work over the years. I don't think this is one of his better scores. The only two characters who really are Tony Shalhoub as the oh-so-proper band leader, and Katrina Lenk as this Israeli Spitfire. I mean, she's got the accent, Meryl Streep, perfect. She comes out. We so happen to run into her after the show. You hear her talk in a real voice.
Of course.
And you can appreciate the art, but we don't really. I mean, there's one other band member who's a makeout artist.
Yes, well, I don't know what his name was, or I would point him out, but I don't know what character the character name.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing. The characters aren't very distinct. The other band members might as well be the orchestra band for the play.
Right.
And the other Israelis who we see really aren't very interesting or aren't very developed.
Well, one of them is played by John Cariani, who was in, who played Muddle the Tailor in one of the last versions of Fiddler on the Roof.
And that's fine, but again, no one's playing anyone of great interest here. There's Eddie Benson as a shy guy trying to have a conversation with a girl. There's this one guy. I guess this is another Yetz who's waiting for in front of a payphone the whole night for his girlfriend to call. The band is basically stuck there for the night, and they're Egyptians, and they have to deal.
Is the father-in-law of that guy
with the Israelis. But since the characters are not developed except for the ones played by Shalhoub and Lenk, and since the score is mediocre.
Oh, I disagree.
It's
underscored. It's not just scored.
Yes,
it's
it is
underscored.
Underscored.
Oh, funny.
Yes.
Well, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on this one here because I love this play.
No, I was disappointed because I love the premise. I love the idea.
No, I love it.
I love Tony Shalhoub. I love Katrina Lenk.
Yeah, well.
But
and Tony
I
Shalhoub,
did not
after
enjoy
characters
this play.
that we've seen him play, after Monk and after some others, is so internalized in this. Everything is inside.
Yes.
And you buy it. You know who he is. You know the things he's done, and you just throw them out the window.
Right.
And he does Meryl Streep too in that case. He totally immerses himself in this character. And I think Katrina Lenk is going to be around for quite a while.
I hope so. I hope
we
so.
just saw her in Indecent, and now we see her in this. I think it's her Tony moment.
Well,
so what would you give it?
I really can't give it more than 3, and I'm being generous.
I want to give it 5. I will give it 4.5. No, I will give it 5. I don't know why I would go for 4.5.
Okay.
I will give it 5. I was transported. That's the other trans. Translucent and transported. That's my other trans.
Okay.
I did love it a lot.
Okay. Well, I cannot say the same. We just lost our time. All right, hold on. We'll get that. Anyway, you know what? As long as we are in Israel,
yes,
let us talk about the other Israeli play we saw. We actually just saw this one, last night. This is at Stage Light. This is Diaspora. And this is at the Gym at Judson. And this is written by Nathal Sham Shapiro and directed by Sahim Ali. It takes place in Masada. Masada was this huge mountain fortress built by King Herod. Herod was one of the kings of Israel. He was an amazing builder.
Yes, well, he's also the man who had Jesus Christ killed, so, you know.
No, that...
Herod was the Dance of the Seven Veils, right, that was Herod.
No, that was...
John the Baptist.
That was somebody else.
That wasn't Herod either?
I don't...
Of course that was Herod.
That was Herod?
Yes.
Okay.
He had her dance for him.
Okay, well...
That was Herod.
Okay, that's...
Skeevy Herod. not unlike Mr.
But we're
Rose.
missing another point. He built... he refurbished the temple. He was... I don't want to say the Donald Trump of his day. Think of another great builder. Well, they say in Israel that Jerusalem had 2 great builders. One was King Herod, one was Teddy Kollak, who was the mayor there for many years.
I remember that
Anyway,
name, yeah.
This takes place in 2 different eras in Masada. One is 73 BC. That is when the Romans had conquered Israel. They had destroyed Jerusalem. There was a band of Jews who went up Masada. It was a fortress, so they could live there and they could blockade themselves from the Romans for a period. And they basically decided, rather than let the Romans kill them or rape them or enslave them, they committed suicide. Now, the author says, well, whether they killed themselves or one, they killed each other, that's another. So he's trying to debunk the story. The problem is no one really knows this.
Well, but the
story.
point of this is not to debunk that. That isn't the point.
Well,
of
that
the
is kind of what he says in his.
Yeah, but that's not
what
what he put in the play. That's
right.
not what the play is about.
No, and you know what? Whatever else he put in the play, that's not what the play meant to put in the play. That's not what it's about either. Most of the play takes place in the present.
Yeah.
On something called Birthright Israel. Birthright is a program that Jewish teenagers and college students use to go to Israel. It's actually free. It's a wonderful program. I'm trying to get
They have to
my
go for
daughter.
a year, right?
No.
Oh, they just go for...
This is like for a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay.
So they tour, and it comes with a bunch of American high school kids or college kids touring Masada, and the play goes back and forth. And to its credit, it flashes on the screen when they're at one place, when they're on the other. The problem is, even worse so than in the band's visit, the characters are terrible. There is no development. They're all this valley.
They're stereotypical. They're cliched beyond belief.
Middle class, spoiled rich kid stereotype. Not even a Jewish stereotype. None of them has anything to say that's worth hearing.
Except for one girl who doesn't say anything until the end. She's sort of the unattractive, slightly overweight girl who kind of hangs out with the other girls, but the other girls are the stars, and she's kind of the hanger-on. And then, somewhere toward a third of the way or two-thirds of the way through the play, she wraps herself in a Palestinian flag, and you go, oh. And she's been online with a guy,
yes, that's,
and he's going to meet her.
Yeah,
and,
who plays.
And the point is, except for the guy who's Anna Lee Ashford's husband, who's in this, nobody in this play is anybody I've ever heard of before.
Do you know Mr. Ashford's name?
Well, you have it in front of you. I don't have it. I'm sorry. His name is.
You can look that up.
Joe Tapper.
Yeah.
Joe
but
Tapper.
The bottom line is, it's poorly acted, not very impressively presented, except for the scenery, which there's smoke during the play, and it's a small theater, so you're choking on the smoke, which is no fun. And basically, yes, she wraps herself in the Palestinian flag. She gets shot down because of it, not literally. And at the end of the play, they find themselves under attack, which I don't recall the last time Masada was actually attacked.
Well, but this, I think that you were supposed to, I thought, again, I think you have to put yourself in this and make some of these things work. I thought it was because she was going to meet this Palestinian guy that somehow that was what that was about, and that the Palestinian guy was responsible for whatever was going to happen then. But
very unlikely, because it was coming from Gaza, so she wouldn't have been going into Gaza.
Where was she going to meet him, though?
At West Bank.
Oh, at West Bank.
But you know what? We're making too much of that because that's a teeny tiny part of the play. Everything else, and I was kind of sitting there waiting. Well, when is that old chestnut going to come?
Yeah.
Nothing we haven't heard before. Yeah. Nothing interesting. Not even on the point. If he's trying to talk about diaspora, diaspora means Jews in exile.
Right.
So they're trying to. Who is a Jew? Who are we? What are we? What is our history?
Yeah, but
and it's mostly, well, I saw him on my iPhone, and maybe I'll sleep with him or with her.
But I will say that I thought the set design, and one of the gals is somebody that the Drama Desk has given an award to in terms of that. The set design was by Mariti Evans, and she has won an award from us. And it was very intriguing. That I thought
Well, the fact that when the same actors play roles and they're in the same costumes, etc., and again, the story of Masada as it's told, the characters are just ridiculous. I mean, I'm not going to comment on whether his version is accurate. He apparently did some research on it. Don't know. Don't even care. Just wasn't interesting. Wasn't excited. It just, it could have been done in a sleepaway camp. Well, basically for.
Well, the way they were acting, they were all spoiled brats, so they would have been like a sleepaway camp.
But even going back to the Masada characters, in 73 A.
Yeah, it was they didn't speak differently enough. It wasn't as if they spoke in a biblical sense or anything. They still sounded like they were from California.
Yeah.
So what would you give it?
I would give this 1.5.
Wow. I don't know that I'd go that high, but. I think 1. I mean, the effort was there. It's interesting.
There's always an effort.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. We didn't know who the people were in the band. but they were lovely, and they brought us little characters, and they were not anything we'd seen before, and each of them, had something to offer. And that wasn't true here. It was everybody here was, oh, I've seen this, and I've seen it better, and it's sad. And when we were doing our little first impression, the playwright walked by, and I felt very bad because we were not being kind even in that, and you don't like to not be kind to their face.
No, you don't like to not be kind, period. You want to go in and you want to like the show.
Yes, of course.
Look, it can often take as much effort to do a lousy show as it can to do a good one.
Absolutely.
But we're not grading on effort, we're grading on what we saw.
And again, it's not a question of whether we know the actors or don't know the actors, because we didn't know anybody in this play at the signature, Jesus Hopped the A Train by Stephen Adley Gurgis. He is one of the playwrights in residence along with Suzanne
Laurie Parks.
Laurie Parks, thank you. And I saw this play, this is about the 5th time I've seen this play. I saw it upstairs at the original Labyrinth Theatre on 21st Street. I saw it when they moved it down to the public. I saw it when they took it to London. And I wrote about it at the time, and it was directed then by Philip Seymour Hoffman. And the characters then were John Ortiz, who was one of the founders of the lab, and David Zayas, who played the guard, and Ron Cephas Jones, who is in This Is Us and plays the father of the kid who's left at the firehouse. And I didn't know any of them then, and so it doesn't matter. This play is beautifully written. It's about a guy who gets caught for having shot someone in the rear.
He shot the leader of a Mooney-like cult that had
Reverend
recruited
Kim,
and brainwashed his friend.
Right.
And he is at Rikers because of it.
Yes, and he gets one of the lawyers who you get when you are in Rikers and you don't have any money, a public defender. And he doesn't like her, and she doesn't like him, but she finally figures out that what he's done is he wasn't trying to kill the guy. If he'd been trying to kill him, he wouldn't have shot him in the quote ass, is what he says. And she tries to help him, and unfortunately, she tells him to lie and he's an innocent, and he says something that they suddenly understand that she's told him to do this. She's coached him, and that's one character. The other character is the black guy who's a serial killer who's killed at least 8 people and is in the other cell and has found God, or not, depending on how you look at it, and who is constantly trying to get him and anybody else who will listen into believing in the Lord, and that will take care of you.
Okay. And there's also
a guard.
A
sadistic guard.
Well, that's what I thought at first. Jerk, typical of Rikers. And then I thought, well, maybe he just doesn't like murderers.
Well, he didn't like the other guy either. So.
Well, he was a murderer. He killed somebody.
No, but he didn't like the other kid who was not a murderer. I mean, the guy died, but he didn't kill him. He wasn't trying to kill him.
He may not have intentionally killed him, but he shot him and he died. So I think that means he killed him. Here's the problem with this play. You want to know why Jesus hopped the A train?
Why?
Because it's an express and he wanted to get away from this play.
Oh.
This play, most of the play, is monologues on finding Jesus by the multi-murderer, which are immensely
and they're monologues by the lawyer who's trying to explain
Those
why
are actually
she did what
interesting.
Everybody gets
and
a
she doesn't
monologue.
explain it. She's saying, this is what I'm going to do to win the case. And those were my favorite part. We need to say who the actors are.
Okay.
And that was the only time, in general, that I found the play interesting. But then I started thinking, we know at the first she's had dozens of clients. She's had dozens of cases like this. Realistically, why would she give up her career, put her career in danger? Which she
I
does
have no
for this.
idea. My sister was a lawyer.
And there's nothing in here that justifies her not only the actions that, but why she would want to do it. So even that part falls short.
No,
as far as I'm
understand.
concerned.
Really quickly, the Angel Cruz, who was the guy who did the shooting,
killed the Mooney guy.
Yeah, is a Sean I can't say this name. Sean Carter, Caravajal. I'm sorry, you can take a shot at that if you want to. And
the multi-murderer who found Jesus, that's Eddie.
Well, it's not Eddie. His name is Ed.
He pronounces it Eddie. It's spelled E-D-I. We had a talk back the night.
It's
Eddie.
I didn't hear it. Okay.
Gafedji. And Stephanie DiMaggio played the lawyer. Richard Shavira played the statistical guard, the sadistical guard, or either that or he just doesn't like people who kill people. And Eric Betancourt played a more easygoing guard who probably loses his job because he's too easygoing. And this was directed by Mark Brokaw. I did not enjoy this play at all, with the exception of the scenes with DiMaggio, or pretty much any scene without the two principal murderers, because the monologues were just dull.
Here's what's funny.
And I also, you might have expected it, since it was set at Rikers, to concentrate a little more about things at Rikers.
Why?
Except for the guard. Well, I said you might, but it doesn't. It doesn't.
This
really.
is Stephen Adly Gurgis, who wrote The Mother with the Hat.
Yes.
And between Riverside and Crazy and Our Lady of 121st Street.
Right.
Stephen writes what Stephen writes, and there's no rationale to where the characters come from or where they're going to go. He has his own way of writing. It's very profane, and it's very smart, and usually it's very funny.
Here.
And usually it's very funny. Oh, this was smart. This play was smart.
No, this was boring.
Well, to you,
Absolutely boring.
To you, we each get a chance to have an opinion on this. So not to me, and I was amazed at how well it hung up, how well it held up. Thank you, and I was also amazed at the fact that when I saw it in London, this was in front of people for whom this language was too much and whatnot, and the people in the audience were spellbound by it then.
Did you see? Did that happen when you saw it here?
Yes. It happened every time I saw it. It happened when I saw it this time as well. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought Mark Brokaw did an interesting job. I think it was much more raw. It was much rawer the first couple of times I saw it, because now it's a chestnut. Now it's been around for 20 years. But I think it's a brilliant play, and I think it was a real great introduction to this particular playwright.
Too much monologuing.
Okay.
Not enough plot, not enough character.
Had no trouble
for me. I will give this 2 playbills.
I will give it 4. I thought it was, and I think I'm really happy that they're doing some of his other plays as well.
Well, I'd certainly like to see some of his other plays, some of which I've seen already. But Jesus, hold the A train door for me. I'm coming with you. All right. And a moment of thought before we go off the air. You know, we are theater critics, and often people want to know, what is the difference between, negative criticism, constructive criticism and destructive criticism.
Oh, yes, okay.
Very simple. Constructive criticism is what I give to you. Destructive criticism is what you give to me. And that is our show for tonight. When you go to the theater, look for Leslie and me, us too.
On the aisle.